March 20th, 2025, and the time now is 10:01 a.m. Board Secretary, please take the roll.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka. Here. Trustee Akina.
Aloha mai kākou.
Trustee Alapa. Present. Trustee Galuteria.
Here.
Trustee Lindsay will be joining us later. Trustee Souza.
Here.
Trustee Waihe'e should be joining us soon, and Chair Kahele.
Present.
We have 6 trustees present. We have quorum.
Ke mahalo lehua. This meeting can be viewed via live stream on OHA's website at www.oha.org/livestream. For those joining us on Zoom to testify or listen, please note that we are using the webinar platform rather than a standard Zoom meeting format. As an attendee, you will be able to watch and listen to the proceedings, and if you wish to testify on a specific agenda item, please follow these steps. Number 1, raise your hand to indicate that you would like to speak. Number 2, we will change your status from attendee to panelist when it is your turn. This may take a few seconds, so we appreciate your patience. Number 3, as a panelist, you will have the option to turn on your camera and unmute yourself to provide testimony. And number 4, once you have finished testifying, please mute yourself and you will be returned to attendee status. And then finally, for everyone here, those in attendance, if you will please silence your cell phones, it would be much appreciated. Included here with our Board of Trustees is our Board Counsel, Richard Naivi Wurdeman. Mahalo for joining us. And introduce our kapuhana to introduce her team that's here today as well.
Mahalo, Chair. Good morning, trustees, Vice Chair. Joining us today in person and online, we have Chief Financial Officer Ramona Hink, Endowment Director Ryan Lee, Interim Corporation Counsel Everett Ota, Interim Senior Legal Counsel Nichi Ozawa, Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation Elena Fardin, Senior Director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs Hailama Fardin, Director of Education and Culture-Based Learning Anu Awo-chan, Director of Community Engagement Lisa Vaughn Sekona, Director of Human Resources Corey Nakamoto, Interim Information Technology Manager Kevin Chalk, and Solutions Delivery Technician Kelsey Wade, and numerous others, Ohana staff. Kalamai and Kehau Pu'u, our COO, is online.
Okay, mahalo, Stacy. Before we move on with our agenda, I'd like to take this moment to recognize a very special individual. You know, it's never easy to lose a member of your family. It's never easy to lose someone who is part of our OHA family. And so it's with profound, sadness that, we announce and honor the life of Melvin Maka Masuda, who passed away just a few days ago. At this time, the Board of Trustees would like to call up our Director of Culture and Hawaiian Affairs, Hailama Fardin, who will take a few moments to share the breadth and the depth and the life of Maka Masuda and how special an individual he was. So, mahalo, Hailama.
He hali aloha for Melvin Madison Maka Masuda. Aloha, Chair, Trustees, Ohana. I found the scripture that I thought fitting for Maka. It's from Psalms 82, verse 3 and 4. Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed, rescue the weak and needy, deliver them from the hands of the wicked. I believe the scriptures characterize Maka very well. Maka Masuda was born and was more than just a legal scholar. Journalist, educator, he was a warrior of justice, a defender of the people, and a steadfast advocate for Native Hawaiian rights. Born in 1942 to first-generation Japanese immigrants, Maka's life was a testament to perseverance, excellence, and unwavering commitment to righteousness. From a young age, Maka demonstrated insatiable curiosity and a deep-seated belief in the power of words and action. He was a paper boy for Honolulu Star Bulletin and Advertiser, an early indication of his lifelong relationship with journalism and truth-telling. By high school, he was already making waves, writing over 100 articles for the Student Council of Oahu Publications, SCOOP, winning essay contests, and becoming a voice for his generation. His brilliance earned him a scholarship to Princeton, where he became the first Roosevelt High School graduate to attend this prestigious institution. At Princeton and later Yale Law School, Maka sharpened his skills in advocacy, leadership, and law. As managing editor of the Daily Princetonian, he earned accolades for his writing and investigative journalism. His commitment to justice led him to Yale, where he earned a seat on the Yale Law Journal, the highest academic honor at that institution. He clerked for Chief Justice William Richardson, where he contributed to landmark cases that shaped the legal landscape of Hawaii. He further distinguished himself by earning a master's degree from Harvard University, making him one of the few individuals to have graduated from Princeton, Yale, and Harvard. But Maka's calling was not just in academia. It was in the heart of the community. In the 1970s, he became a White House Fellow, breaking barriers as the first of Japanese ancestry to serve in this capacity. Yet despite his national recognition, his heart remained in Hawaii. He became a pro bono attorney for the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, fighting for the return of Kaho'olawe to the Hawaiian people. I might note he is a founding member of PKO. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Kahu Abraham Akaka in a torchlight protest march against the injustices of the Hawaii Land Reform Act. He was there when history called. As an educator, Maka nurtured generations of legal minds, serving as a professor of business law and real estate at the Hawaii Pacific University for over 2 decades. He established legal programs, mentored students, and ensured that knowledge was a tool for empowerment. His 1994 article, "Do You Have to Be Hawaiian to Love the Land?" eloquently captured his unwavering commitment to justice and his profound connection to the late George Jared Helm. Maka also contributed to Hawaiian music history by writing the liner notes to George Helm's posthumous album and was a dedicated member of the Hawaii Academy of Recording Arts. Even in his later years, Maka continued to fight for the voiceless. In 2019, he defended 6 defendants in the Kahuku wind farm case, proving that his passion for justice never wavered. In 2023, January 17th, he joined the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, an institution dedicated to advancing Native Hawaiian rights. It is no coincidence that his start date was January 17th, the very anniversary of the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. Maka's life was interwoven with struggles and triumphs of the Hawaiian people. Maka Masura's legacy is one of service, courage, unwavering dedication to the oppressed. His story echoes the very principles of Psalm 82, 3-4, defending the weak, uplifting the needy, and delivering justice. Today we honor him, not just as a scholar, a lawyer, a professor, but a champion of righteousness, a true protector of the land and the people of Hawaii. Aloha oe, Maka. Your work lives in the justice you fought for, the students you inspired, and the hearts of all who have the privilege of knowing you. Mahalo ke akua.
Mahalo hai lama. I know you worked really hard last night to the wee hours of the morning to put that together. Kapuana, you have any words from Maka on behalf of the administration? Then I'll give it over to our trustees.
I think I speak on behalf of all of the ohana here, that Maka was such a kind and gentle person. We all have our stories of Maka, and I just share a really quick one with myself and our CEO, Ke Haupu'u. Every time we had a OHA event, Maka would come to the office and he would bring us lei, because he felt it was really important that our leaders always wore a lei for our special occasions. But I just think that that's a very much a quintessential act that Maka would do. Always kind, always thinking of others, very gentle and mild-mannered. And I think I speak on behalf of all of us. He will be missed. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Trustees? You know, I first met Maka when I was appointed to the state senate, and Maka was an attorney in the state senate. And if I remember correctly, he was an attorney on the minority side, serving under former state senator Sam Sloan, and I believe Senator Favela, and that's how I first got a chance to know Maka. You know, it didn't matter if he was on the minority attorney team. He, you know, made it a point to come and seek out this young, you know, state senator who just got appointed and took the time to spend a little time with mentoring me and teaching me a little bit of how the state senate works. I'm sure our former Senator Galutaeri here can attest that Maka knew most things in the building that most people didn't know that existed. And so that's how I best remember Maka. I was surprised when I came here to OHA and our paths reunited again. And it was not just 3 weeks ago, maybe, where Maka was sitting in the seat where Trustee Waihe'e is right now, and I was sitting next to him where Trustee Akina is. As you all know, I've been having an opportunity to meet with all of our different paya, and I met with the advocacy paya team, and Maka sat right there. He introduced himself first and shared many of the things, Hailama, that you described. So, you know, I think looking at him now, smiling, wearing if I'm not mistaken, it's a Kamehameha Warriors hat. Is that at our most recent Onipa'a March? That's amazing. And so that's how I will best remember him. I would also find him sometimes sitting in our board, I guess, suite, what's the word for it? Promenade, walkway, whatever. He would just be sitting in there and hanging out with, you know, former trustees that have served at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And so I will remember him most for that, and what a amazing individual he was. Trustee Galutera.
Thank you, Chair. I do this very often, but I would like the words of the previous speaker to be entered into the record as if they were my own, and also add that Maka had a unique, he blurred the lines so well between partisan groups, between the blue, the red. He blurred the line between ethnicities. So he was just living proof that, you know, greatness came in small packages too. So we want to aloha, aloha Maka, wherever he is. He's looking down on us right now. Yeah, mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Any other trustees? If not at this time, or excuse me, Trustee Akina.
I truly wish that I had known Maka better. The word that comes to me from just the few times that I was able to meet him is humility. He was a man of such distinguished background, excellence in his profession, commitment to the cause of Native Hawaiians, and yet he would sit there in an unassuming posture and always treat others with great respect. He's one of the people whom I aspire to be like when I grow up. May the Lord bless our dear Maka.
Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. I want to mahalo Hailama for putting together such a well thought out, mindful, it's like a eulogy for Maka here. And I was so comforted to see of his work alongside my Anakala Uncle Kwai, also known as Kahu Ibrahim Akaka. And I feel it's been such an honor to have Maka serve his final years here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And it's with such great honor that I learn more about his background here. And I think we all are able to take a moment of pause to be able to see such dignity and aloha in the work that one can do in their years on this earth. And I just wanted to say mahalo, mahalo anui to Maka, and I hope that you are celebrating up above with those that you have worked with through the years and through time, and that you are in love and peace with your ohana and friends and your colleagues through the years. And if it's all right, if we can all take a moment of homalo of silence so that we can honor our dear Maka. Mahalo.
At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to rise. We're going to take a 1-minute moment of silence for Melvin Maka Masuda. Mahalo nui loa. Trustees, we are now going to move on to new business on the agenda. And our first item is Board of Trustee Action Item number 2504. This will be the second reading of the revision to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustees Bylaws. Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this item?
We have one person online. We have Jermaine Myers.
All right, if you can add Jermaine.
Moving her to panelist.
Aloha, Jermaine.
Aloha, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. And we are on action item number 2504. And when you're ready, you're recognized to speak on this item.
Aloha. First, I'd like to mahalo the trustees and administration for your beautiful eulogy of Maka. And I'd like to send my condolences to the staff at OHA that worked with him. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I'm an OHA beneficiary for beneficiary advocacy and empowerment. I'm also a Nanakuli Hawaiian Homestead lessee. Action item BOT 2504, revisions to OHA Board of Trustees bylaws. Mahalo, Chair and Administration, for the second reading draft in today's packet. I appreciate the corrections to the BOT Vice Chair position. Also, the commitment to allow beneficiary testifiers 5 minutes to voice our mana'o about agenda items and community concerns. I'm looking forward to executing the bylaws, which would provide me the opportunity to give a 15 minutes presentation at the BAE committee meeting to share about Nanakuli, the Native Hawaiian community I call home. I'm just patiently waiting for the BAE chair or administration to contact me as promised by Chair Kahele at a BOT meeting 2 months ago. I noted all the requested revisions are included in the red line copy of the bylaws. Mahalo for giving me the opportunity to share my mana'o on today's action item. I hope today's second reading of the bylaw revisions will be unanimously approved at today's board meeting so that these updates to the bylaws can take effect immediately. Ke akuapu, God bless all of you.
Anyone else signed up to speak, Lehua?
There is no one else signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, let's ask for a motion on action item number 2504, and then we can go into discussion. Have a second? All right. Seconded by Trustee Akina. Okay, trustees, any discussion on action item number 2504? Just as a review, this is the second reading Per our bylaws, it requires 6 votes or a majority, supermajority of the board, 2/3 vote to approve our bylaws. Our bylaws, as we have discussed earlier, do a couple, I think, really important things. One of them, most importantly, is it updates our bylaws so that it is current and reflective of the state's current sunshine law. I want to give mahalo to Everett Ota, our general counsel, for putting a lot of time and effort into that and for taking the initiative to allow us to do that. It also does a couple things as well. It codifies the Chair Emerita and Emeritus status, the succession of a board officer and committee chairperson, the approval of committee agendas by the committee chairperson, requirements for meeting presentations and testifiers, revisions to the Board of Trustees staff positions. It also adjusts and addresses other areas of consistency, clarity, and statutory compliance and technical amendments. It also is in compliant with Chapter 10 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. And so language that exists in Chapter 10 is exactly what exists in our bylaws in terms of titles and positions and et cetera. And so at this time, would any trustee have anything that they would like to discuss regarding our bylaws? Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. Just in continuation to last meeting, in terms of consistency and having a updated, cleaner version of what we have going on a full version. I did discuss with Everett prior to this revisions or edits that I'm recommending, and I do believe that these updates would help us in being consistent in alignment with the sunshine laws and so forth. So I think I can agree with a lot of these changes. But starting with page, and this is the red.
I guess what would be helpful is if you,
The page number?
the page number and the version, whether it's the track change version or the clean version.
Yeah, okay. I'm realizing I'm working off of my last meeting materials too, so maybe that might have changed a little. Let me get this. So I'm working off of the red line version here. So it would be page 17 on the red line version.
Okay,
Did I do
page
page?
17.
Mhm.
Then, but just to clarify, is this the red line version from last week or 2 weeks
This is
ago?
the red line version of this current.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yes.
so you're on the administrator
18 of-
page?
Yes, 18 of last meeting.
Okay, great, okay. I'll use this one.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on
So-
page 17 of the track change version.
Yeah, so under D function, where it says the administrator shall function as the chief executive officer, to be consistent with the other language throughout this document, it makes sense to have it where chief is removed, because
You're on 17,
yes,
number D
17
function.
D function.
Okay,
Because of whatever it was mentioning in that last meeting, in answer to my the edit that I'm recommending here for consistency purposes, under section 6, says the board shall have the power to exercise control over the Office of Foreign Affairs through its executive officer, the administrator of the Office of Foreign Affairs, who shall be appointed to the board. So,
that's chapter 10, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So that would be consistent. And let's see. And under page 40 in the last thing.
Everett, would you mind joining us up here, just in case there's
Sure.
questions? Thank you.
On page 39 on this week's version, I had asked Everett about,
Is this the staff page?
yes,
Okay.
regarding the board staff. For the board secretary, I noticed that it was very descriptive, the various kuleana of the board secretary. And I felt that a lot of the kuleana listed here could also apply to the chief of staff or deputy chief of staff position as well. So I had asked Everett for some clarification as to how this language was made to be included in here
Okay.
versus the chief of staff. And maybe Everett, you could probably explain better than I can what you had shared with me. Where this is derived from the job description and so forth.
Yes, I can, and good morning, Chair and Trustees. The expansion of the duties described under the Board of Trustees staff really came at the direction of Chair Kahele. It is based off of language found in the job descriptions for those positions, at least for the ones that currently exist. Prior to this, the bylaws provided for a very brief and general description, just stating that the chairperson of the board shall be entitled to an additional staff position known as the BOT private secretary. That has been expanded here to provide for more descriptive listings of the duties. But again, those come from the position description for the board secretary.
So Trustee Akaka, are you recommending that specific language that is in the board secretary as it is currently described is also included in the chief of staff job description, position description? Did you have suggested changes?
Let me look this over again. Thank you. Particularly the last part, the board secretary is expected to synthesize and communicate ideas, memos, and official correspondence concisely, coherently, and comprehensively. That previously was done with our chief of staff. So I feel that perhaps that could be included to the chief of staffs or swapped out, as that was when I first came on to the Office of Foreign Affairs, that was the duty of the chief of staff. Or maybe it was shared together.
I
Spend some
mean,
time.
I think it could apply to both positions, but I
Right.
think the board secretary is critical to our correspondence, memos, and so I
Mhm.
think it would apply to both.
I
And
think so
it could
too.
be included in both.
Yeah,
Okay. What is the next one?
it was mostly that.
Those two?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, in the document. So page 16 of last week's and okay, so under page 15 of this week's red line.
Yep.
Um, regarding the chairperson. So, under line 4 or item number 4.
Yep.
Where the chairperson is to serve as a primary liaison with the governor, congressional delegation, the legislature, and other agencies and organizations to ensure that there are effective working relationships between all of the above and the board. I feel that in the work that we do, the goal and the intention is to work from a county, state, and federal level, and sometimes international level. So I believe that county council should be included in this as well. Unless, one of the questions I had asked Everett is it where the county councils is falling under other agencies and organizations, however, they are a government body, so I felt it was fitting to include it where it instead says serve as a primary liaison with the governor, congressional delegation, the legislature, the county councils, the county councils, and other agencies and organizations to ensure that there are effective working relationships between all of the above and the board.
I think I would reverse it and put it at the beginning, so.
That was
could-
another thought
It could
too.
say like, serve as a primary liaison with the 4 county council chairs, comma, 4 county mayors, governor, congressional delegation, the legislature. I mean, if you wanted to be specific,
Mhm.
add those in.
Sense too. Although at the same time, it makes me think, oh, if we're gonna specifically mention mayors and county council chairs, it makes sense to have when I think of the state legislature, the speaker of the house and the Senate president. If we're gonna be that specific, but I do I understand the intent with including the mayors and the county council chairs.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it saying serve as a primary liaison with the 4 county council chairs or you could include the county chairs with the 4 mayors, the state senate president, speaker of the house, the governor, and the congressional delegation, and other agencies and organizations. Because I do think county council members of the legislature, that should all be the kuleana of all of us as trustees. But you do need, I think, one focal point person to engage with the other respective leaders of those various branches. And so I think the OHA chairperson would probably be the best person to act in that capacity, while other trustees have the capacity to work together with other county council members, other members of the legislature, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't think it would limit the
Yeah.
work of the trustee,
Right.
the board of trustees. However, when this is specifically stating the various roles in kuleana of the chairperson and how they can exercise their kuleana as the board chair. Another thought too is to have it more simplified or general, to have it as serve as the primary liaison of the counties, or because here it says congressional delegation, it doesn't say like US senators or US representatives or congressmen, and it says the legislature. So if we want to keep it more general like that, maybe we could just have it where,
Just add in the 4 counties.
yeah,
So serves as a primary liaison with, what would that language be, Everett? Serves as a primary liaison with the 4.
I
County
think it would
governments?
depend on the preferred approach. I mean, we could also make it serve as a primary liaison with the elected officials of county, state, federal government, and other agencies and organizations. That way it captures kind of the
Sure.
intended scope
Yeah,
of this,
I mean,
but
the
not
chairs-
necessarily having to enumerate each
Right.
potential elected
Yeah.
position that this would interface with.
pretty general.
I mean, and it's the primary liaison. It's not the only liaison, right?
Mhm.
You all are liaisons
Right.
as well. So, I'm okay with that. Davey?
You know, I think, and other agencies and organizations, I mean, to me, it captures county council as well, just in that catch-all phrase there, if that's the concern.
If we're going to propose an amendment, then I'm okay with whatever just described.
To have it where it's the county, state, and federal elected,
Yeah,
government elected
whatever,
officials.
ever
or
just,
something to that effect.
described rather than naming specific
Right.
positions, you can make it general, but include the county governments. Okay. Next,
That's
change. Those are the three. The only reason I think, it is important if we were to include these proposed amendments, given that I know we're on second reading, is that I think as a standard practice, we should update our bylaws annually, every year, and if we don't update these now, then this would have to wait until next year. So I'm fine adopting your recommendations. If the rest of the board would like to adopt those recommendations, we can pass this out on first reading and we can agendize it on next week, Thursday's March 27th board meeting for second reading. Trustee Aquino.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to speak. Thank you, Trustee Akaka. First, let me say I'm very pleased with the product that has come to us. And for all the right reasons, we need to update our bylaws, especially to be consistent with Sunshine Law and HRS 10. That's good for our beneficiaries. And thank you, Trustee Akaka, for those recommendations and for the care with which you've gone through all of this. I'm referring back to page 17 of the red line text. Article 7, Administrator, D, Function. The phrase, the administrator shall function as the chief executive officer. I think the statement, the administrator shall function as chief executive officer, makes it clear that we're talking about the administrator. So it does refer to the correlation we want to have with the use of that word in HRS. But it's merely describing a function of the administrator, that the administrator shall function as the chief executive officer. I think it's been very helpful to designate this person and allow this person to be called the chief executive officer for several reasons. For one thing, it distinguishes the kind of organization OHA is. While it is headed by an administrator, administrators head things such as committees and commissions and so forth, and there are numerous administrators in an organization. The distinction of CEO helps to recognize the scope and the breadth of and complexity of the organization. Secondly, it's a commonplace convention to use that title when dealing with the business world, when dealing with corporate world and so forth, as well as government. And I think it's to our advantage to be able to send a representative to all of these audiences who's immediately acknowledged as CEO, not merely one of the administrators. And third, I'm looking into the future. In order to retain and attract the kind of talent that we want, we're going to aim for CEO caliber. We went through the process when we recruited the current CEO of working with Ms. Kumabe to find people who specifically were of the highest CEO caliber. We may not be able to attract people to become an administrator of a government agency as opposed to a CEO. I respect what you have to say and agree, Trustee Akaka, that formal title, administrator, is appropriate. But I think that this option in D, the administrator shall function as the chief executive officer, gives us more options and is suitable. That's therefore, I'm in favor of keeping it as proposed in this red line.
Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo for that manao. Well, I understand and I can agree with some of what you're saying. This is also for consistency to match what Chapter 10, the creation of Office of Foreign Affairs, has in the law, if that is the spirit of having us be in alignment with, chapter 10 and the Sunshine Law. And it's also mirroring for consistency, where if you look on page, just even with page, it's the 6 on here, in last week's. On page 5 of this week's red line version, it fully removes that as under the definitions on Article 2. So if we're going to start off, as part of the document as so, then does it make sense to bring that back in if we're going to have it match with that, or keep it out and then trying to
I
keep
mean,
it consistent here?
I hear both sides. I lean towards aligning it with what chapter 10 says. What chapter 10 says is what I would prefer for it to say. It does say executive officer in chapter 10, which I think is pretty clear what that position, that position does. And so,
Yes, it does specifically say in chapter 10, section 6, through its executive officer.
I'm sorry, Everett, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And actually, there's maybe a suggestion I can make, and I'm sorry for not bringing this up in our prior discussion. It's just something that I thought through as we've continued to discuss and look at this language. But the Chief Executive Officer is currently the title of, right, Kapohana Chief Executive Officer, Administrator of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and that term is also used in our Executive Policy Manual. I think the language in statute is executive officer, right? Say the head of the administration of OHA. But given that language is still reflected in our executive policy manual and all of the board approved policies that have been that are contained in there, I think it would be beneficial to maintain at least this link between the administrator and chief executive officer as reflected in the executive policy manual, at least until that language is made consistent with this bylaw revision here. For instance, references to the chief executive officer, because that would still need to go through a process of revision in the executive policy manual. We would want to ensure that there's a way to show, the position that we're referring to under these other approved board policies. So by maintaining at least this language in the bylaws, we maintain that link at least until the executive policy manual can be revised in full.
I guess my only comment on that is it's the chicken before the egg, right? Like, it's my intent to update the executive policy manual immediately after the bylaws are updated. So this update would trigger not just that update, but many updates that need to happen in the executive policy manual. Trustee Akaka?
It's not listed in this document, but I would say in the document that Everett is talking about, to follow what you're talking about is what is not consistent as well in the chapter 10 is we have it as COO, and it seemed like the change with CEO, that has evolved over time. So that would be something to be looked at as well. But again, it's not part of the definitions. It's not mentioned in this document, but that goes hand in hand, because if we're gonna have it where we no longer have the title as CEO but strictly as administrator, then it would make sense to have that reflected also with the COO's position as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think governance is really important, and having appropriate foundational documents is very important for OHA to do its work. There are several different documents that are still floating around OHA that have been in use for quite some time, that in some cases are 20 years old. I'll give you one example. The operations manual. I don't know if you've heard of that document, but look at our agenda and it references the operations manual, which by and large is 2 decades old. Everything in it is outdated, except for a few sections that we still use and apply. And so there are some important things in the operations manual that should probably come out of that and be incorporated into the executive policy manual when we update it. I just want to make sure that OHA has solid, current, foundational documents that are consistent with the current laws so that we can do the work that we do, and that these new documents supersede all previous documents, and we're all operating on the same sheet of music. So that's a goal for this exercise, which does take some time, and it takes a majority to, in some cases, more than a majority to adopt. But Everett, I'm sorry, you're recognized. Oh, sorry, Trustee Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I have a question. You know, when the board designated the administrator as the chief executive officer, and I didn't vote for that, by the way, so I'm not supporting this idea one way or the other, but that wasn't done through through amending the bylaws. That was taken by an actual action where the board designated that function onto the administrator. And then the bylaws were later, when they were updated, it was to accommodate board policies that were approved, that being one of them. So my question is, because that was a board action, if you wanted to take that out, I mean, that's why everything says CEO in all the documents that you're talking about earlier, because the board designated that onto the administrator. Wouldn't, like, if you wanted to change that, would that take a separate action besides just amending the bylaws to whatever you wanted to say? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I believe I do understand what you're getting at, Trustee Waihe'e. I think it's to implement that change in title across the board, right? Not just through the bylaws, but doing it as a, I guess, a single action that would apply broadly across all of our
I guess, in other
documents.
words, if that was done through a board action and that board action was never rescinded or changed, and you're just changing your bylaws to not reflect it, I mean, is the idea that will change that action that was taken just because the bylaw isn't acknowledging it? Do you,
Yeah, if I may, Chair. I mean, I'm assuming that at the time, the board took action in the bylaws to define it as such,
they did not.
because it can't just appear up on our bylaws without
When
the
they,
board taking some sort of action previously.
when they updated the bylaws, and quite a bit later, they changed it to comply with all the different actions we had taken that would affect the bylaws. It was updated later. So for a while, it didn't even, the CEO was designated and the bylaws were still the old bylaws that didn't even have it, but the CEO was still the CEO. You know what I mean? Because the board took
Yeah.
that action.
Well, it would have required a 2/3 majority vote of the board to make to have that reflected in the bylaws. So
It-
I'm assuming it was done at some point.
No, see,
Yeah.
no, this is gonna sound really odd, but I didn't vote for this.
Yeah.
It didn't, it didn't take 2/3 of a vote. I don't know, we changed that designation, and when we updated the bylaws later, at that point, it took 2/3 to update the bylaws. But which we did, whether you liked it or not, because it's an accurate reflection of actions the board had taken previously, right? But when they changed it, it didn't require 2/3 vote to change to add the CEO designation onto the administrator. They just changed it, and then later on, they updated all the manuals to reflect that board decision. And so I'm saying that, I mean, the policy manuals reflect the board's decisions. So do you have to repeal the board decision before you can change all the policy manuals?
I don't think you need to do that. I think if the board has 6 votes, which is what it takes, right? It's a higher threshold to adopt the bylaws, which are the foundational document for the board. The bylaws triggers all the other subsequent documents, that if a supermajority of the board adopt the bylaws and those bylaws reflect these new changes, then that supersedes everything.
No, Kai, to me, the only thing that changes is the bylaws. I mean, in my opinion. Like, in other words, so now the bylaw will read, how do I say it? The bylaws are going to read, the administrator will function as the executive officer, or is that what the proposal is?
It's the proposal that's
Right.
consistent with Hawaii state law
Okay,
and the
right,
state's
right.
constitution.
So, and the bylaws will now read that,
Yes,
but the
it's
decision,
proposed by Trustee Akaka.
but the decision that was made to make the administrator the CEO, that, like, that bylaw doesn't, eliminate that. Because like saying that, okay, the administrator is the executive officer or chief executive officer, those are just both words that designate the top ranking corporate officer. I mean, you could change it to managing director, but the fact that the board has said that this will be the CEO still is a directive that was made. And so in other manuals that acknowledge it, I don't see that they would have to change, just because the bylaws say something different. That's the same thing, basically. That's a synonym for the same thing. So that's the question I'm trying to.
Trustee Akaka?
Do you understand what I'm asking? I don't know if.
Would it be simplified then to, would the way about this be to have a separate action item in the near future to then specifically address this?
No, I mean, you could. I guess my point is that even if we changed it in the bylaws to the executive officer, I don't think it means that everything else that has the CEO in it needs to get changed. Because I don't think this change is such that it overrides all that. It just is saying it differently. Yeah, I don't, I mean, it's because it's describing a function, right? It's saying, it's not changing the position. It's saying that I don't know, the administrator shall function as the executive officer, and the CEO is the executive officer. I mean, it's the same thing, you know. That's what I was trying to ask. Like, even if we change the bylaws, it doesn't change all that other stuff that was implemented by board action.
Brett?
I guess I would say that the titling of the OHA Chief Executive Officer across our operations would need to change in conformance to the bylaws. So to the extent that the bylaws are removing the title of Chief Executive Officer as an equivalent to the administrator of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs under state law, then that title is therefore no longer applied to the position that, you know, is the administrator or the head of OHA administration. In this case, in the specific language that we're looking at in terms of the administrator and the function of that position, I think that is how, you know, this board wants to designate the function of that administrator position, whether it's defining it as the executive officer or the chief executive officer. It's really, I think, up to the board to decide how you folks want to designate that function under the bylaws. It if that answers your question, trustee Waihee, I wanted to maybe just touch on one example of how, I think this titling does, make a difference to operations. But if I'm, I guess, okay with that.
I have one question, Everett, before you go there. If trustee Akaka makes her 3 recommendations to amend the current proposed bylaws, does that require 6 votes or 5 votes? Maybe.
It's gonna be there's a motion pending on the floor right now, so there has to be a motion to amend. Gonna need 6 votes because it's gonna be amending the current bylaws.
Okay. And then it will need a subsequent 6 votes to pass first reading.
Well, I mean, if it passes with 6 votes and the underlying motion that's pending passes with 6 votes, then those are new bylaws. I would opine.
So you'd have to take 2 votes.
I think we can do that today without coming
Okay.
back for another reading.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Everett.
If I could maybe go back to the point I was making regarding consistency across these bylaws and our executive policy manual, which has yet to be revised in accordance with the change to the titling here. One, although I think we within OHA are clear on what the function we're referring to with the administrator / chief executive officer, it's not always clear to external parties. And our executive policy manual provides for the chief executive officer to have been delegated certain authorities to sign and negotiate and execute contracts and other agreements on behalf of the organization. That's a power delegated from the board to the chief executive officer, just to facilitate, right, the doing of business of OHA. That's Executive Policy Manual 3.1.L. We are currently reviewing a subscription agreement with private equity investments that we are, Alp Invest, I believe, which the board previously had reviewed as part of, our rebalancing of our portfolio. And of course, certain agreements have to be executed to formalize those, commitments to these investments. These investment companies are asking for us to provide governing documents to demonstrate the authority of the person signing off on these documents as someone with the authority to sign on behalf of the agency. And with the change in this titling, right, we have a disconnect between the administrator position and the chief executive officer as designated in our bylaws, right, under this delegation of authority. So we don't have a way to show, until we revise the bylaws, right, to reflect administrator, we don't have a way to show that, the person signing off, right, who is now the administrator of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, is in fact this chief executive officer that's reflected in our executive policy manual. At least with this, I can show that, the administrator is the chief executive officer, basically linking the bylaw language to the executive policy manual language, at least until we're able to reconcile the two and make them consistent across. But that does require additional work to, of course, revise the executive policy manual and then do a 2 reading process to update all of those policies.
Which I think we should avoid doing.
I'm sorry?
We should avoid having to come back to revise the bylaws again if those changes are made. So what you're describing would require the board to revise the bylaws and take another 2 reading, 2/3 vote in the affirmative to pass. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the process to revise the executive policy manual or the bylaws?
You were correct in saying yes.
Okay.
Trustee Kaka, you have a motion?
I have a question.
Trustee Lindsay?
In absence of the amendment, can't the chair sign in place of the two titles that you're discussing?
I would argue no, because the board has delegated that that contract execution authority to the chief executive officer, now, retitled to the administrator. So that again is found in the executive policy manual, and that's the delegation of authority to the chief executive officer.
It's a good point, Trustee Lindsay, but again, to our discussion, those are all things that we will update very soon once we get past this process.
Yeah, I think it should be the discretion of the chair and the board, what gets delegated. And a good example is, let's say, the settlement that we discussed in executive session. If we had given our CEO more guidance, that wouldn't have happened,
Sure. Trustee Akaka?
I move to include the amendments or an amended version of the bylaws. That work? Okay, I move to amend the motion, the original motion, so that we can include the amendments that I have provided.
Is there a second? Members, discussion on Trustee Akaka's proposed motion to amend the original motion. Trustee Kina?
Thank you. This has been a good discussion. I want to take it just beyond merely the naming of someone. It's also a philosophy as to how organizations, nations, other entities are led. We have found that having a point person as the leader, CEO, recognized as a leader, both internally for those in the organization and externally for those with whom we interact, is a very effective and efficient way of operating. And the board has the responsibility of hiring or firing that person and holding that person accountable. And it's through that person that this leader represents the organization. CEO makes that easy because everybody knows what the CEO of an organization is. The employees within it know, and companies doing business with us outside, they know. They're not just dealing with, as Everett pointed out, a secondary administrator, but they're dealing with the person who's been charged with the right and the responsibility of representing the organization. I think that's a good reason to have the option, and I say option because we want to be consistent with HRS. We're not being inconsistent by saying that the administrator functions as the CEO, because we are being consistent by designating an administrator. We're just saying this is an option we can use as necessary. So just in conclusion on my point, I think CEO is a good term because it provides a recognition of the scope and the complexity of the organization. We're not just a commission. Secondly, it designates very clearly the person in the point person role, the quarterback. And third, and I do think this is important because I've been involved in many recruitment situations. When we're recruiting talent and retaining talent, I believe we'll have a better chance of getting the right person by recruiting a CEO of the highest caliber as opposed to an administrator. Therefore, I would prefer for us to keep the language that we do have in the red line. The administrator shall function as the chief executive officer. Keep that as an option we can use. Thank you.
Trustee Akaka?
Hello. What comes to mind is when I think of the title Chief Executive Officer and what Trustee Akina had shared, I go back to the original creation of the Office of Foreign Affairs as a state agency, a government agency, and I think of the Department of Foreign Homelands and how in their creation and how the one that serves in the position to head the organization, their title is not the chief executive officer. Um, uh, and I'd be interested to know what government agencies or government bodies have it where they list their administrator or somebody that would serve in that position as a chief executive officer, so that I could have a better sense of how that would make sense, and balancing that with what Chapter 10 says and the creation of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Trustee Souza.
Mr. Chair, I should agree with Trustee Aquino. And I know we're changing the bylaws to align with Chapter 10. And I see your point too, Trustee, but I see in its current form, I see we are in alignment from what my understanding is of Chapter 10. But like Trustee Aquino is saying, basically, we're going to go back, we're going to be in alignment with Chapter 10, but it's also at our discretion, right? This organization, what we want to refer to our administrator as, right? CEO, head honcho, whatever we want to call her. To me, I think that's as long as it reflects that we have an administrator, right, in the bylaws, we can technically, as a board, decide what we want to refer to her as, or him, or whoever in the future what is our administrator. So that's my point. Just having that option would be a good thing. So I would agree with that, Trustee.
Naive or Everett, do you know of any government agencies or state agencies that have the title CEO in there versus director, deputy?
I think Kapana was mentioning Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. I'm not familiar with other organizations off the top of my head.
Trustee Lindsay.
I just want to say and clarify that the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and the Department of Land and Natural Resources, those two heads of departments have like so much authority because they not only head the commission and the board, but they also head the entire department. They run those departments. So that's the difference between those two departments and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
If I may, Trustee Lindsay's comments. I mean, that's provided statutorily. You have the chair of the commission or the chair of the board with respect to Hawaiian Homes and DLNR, BLNR, and they're also serve as a director. So, Chapter 10, we have our board, and then we have our administrator, right? As it's expressed. So, in that sense, it's a little bit different. Yeah.
I see the head of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs agency as the chair. The chair is the head of this agency. And he, on behalf of the trustees, oversee our administrator. That's the position within this organization.
I guess for me, I still lean back towards making sure our documents are consistent with, as the law reads. I totally understand the flexibility that, Trustee Souza references in. We have various different titles for our administrator, right? Kapuhana is one of them as well, which is a Hawaiian title that doesn't exist in our bylaws. But we often refer to her or him as kapuhana. So,
Mr. Chair, I also think it's an advantageous sometimes for us to call our administrator Chief Executive Officer, especially when she's representing the board on some kind of negotiation or advocacy. It kind of indicates that she does have the authority to represent us.
to I think Trustee Souza's point. So again, I'm comfortable moving forward with Trustee Akaka's proposed amendment. At some point, we'll have to table discussion and vote on that. Sorry, Everett,
Just briefly, Hawaii Health System Corporation also refers to their top executive as chief executive officer.
Is that a state agency?
Yes.
What, and how were they created? Was that created through the legislature where it's at in HRS or?
I would have to look into that. I don't have that off the top of my head.
okay. I mean, I'm supportive of it just on the grounds of consistency.
And this
we
is
can
what
always,
this is.
we can always change stuff at the legislature, right? It's a little taller order to do, as we've all noticed, but do we always have that option?
If I may, Chair.
Yep.
You know, I think the issue of the title is not as important as maybe what is delegated and not delegated to that person. And if our bylaws indicate, you know, administrator as the CEO, then I think the issue probably becomes, you know, to what extent the board wants to delegate certain duties or not delegate. And that's up to the board. But with respect to it being inconsistent with Chapter 10, I'm not so sure that it is inconsistent with Chapter 10. It really comes down to what to me, as I see it, what powers we want to delegate to the administrator or the CEO. Thank you.
Trustees, are we comfortable moving forward with Trustee Akaka's amendment?
Well, with my question now, because I gave different recommendations, edits to this document. Is it where I'm trying to get a sense of how to move forward here? So can it be, or does it make sense for us to vote on each edit that I made, or does it make sense to have it all together? Because if the desire is to have some and not one, then it be separated.
Oh,
Yeah, you'd have to withdraw your earlier
Rescind
motion,
and then
you know, if you want to move to amend something
one
else,
by one.
just do so. But yeah, you currently have a motion to amend the motion that's on the table, that's currently pending and is in discussion right now.
Okay. I have to read up. I'd have to,
Well, the current motion, Trustee Akaka proposed 3 changes. First change was on page 17 of the most current redacted version, that is to eliminate the word chief under D function. The second amendment was in the staffing page, and that was to basically take the language in the last paragraph of the board secretary and include that language verbatim under the chief of staff's position, word for word. And then the third amendment was to amend find the exact page. 5, yeah?
Page 15, Chair.
15 was to amend the duties of officers and members, number 4, to amend this language to say serve as the primary liaison with the county governments, governor, congressional delegation, and legislature, and other agencies and organizations.
I think if, the board was inclined to take, my approach was to suggest serve as the primary liaison with elected officials of county, state, and federal governments and other agencies and organizations to ensure that there are effective working relationships between all of the above and the board.
Sure. Those would be the three. So, Trustee Alapa. Go ahead.
Okay, now it's on. Okay, so back on page 17, or it says the word function. Is that necessary? This is for either of our council, necessary. Why is the word function written there? Is there a reason why we have to have the word function? Because if that's going to be changed eventually, so wouldn't that be eliminated anyway?
I think that Trustee Alapa's question, at least for my part, I think it's just describing what the role of that administrator position or the function within the organization. So I think it's just descriptive in terms of what you would expect the responsibilities of that position to be, or the nature of those.
I would agree with that. So
Right,
Trustee
thanks. Just out
Akaka,
of curiosity, that's all.
Trustee Akaka,
Mhm.
want to vote on your three items?
I'll rescind my original amendment to then bifurcate, or we'd have them divided into three.
Nice.
So if I could move that we amend the. Gonna get a sense of our pages here again. Yes, I rescinded that original motion to amend. So,
So you wanna bifurcate each one?
yes,
Okay, why don't you do this? At the pleasure of the chair of the board, move to bifurcate each one, and then we'll take a vote on each one, and think that would accomplish.
thank you. Thank you.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay.
So you're rescinding your first motion? Okay. So why don't we just move one by one on each one?
Want to do the first one? Trustee Akaka?
So starting with page 15.
Yep.
I move that we amend as it was proposed to include it where the language would reflect that we would include it to be county, state, and federal.
As described by Everett.
Yes, as well as other agencies and organizations.
You want to repeat
Yeah.
chat once more, Everett?
Okay, I think it's to amend, Article 6, Section A4 to read, serve as the primary liaison with elected officials of county, state, and federal governments and other agencies and organizations to ensure that there are effective working relationships between all of the above and the board.
Like that?
I'll
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Members, do we have discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa?
Yes.
Trustee Galuteria?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
We have 8 yes votes.
I, yes, move to make the amendment on page 17 of the red line version under the administrator. Well, um, I was just going in chronological order. Yeah. But to what you're mentioning, page 5, we're just having it be consistent with page 5. So page 17, under D function, the administrator shall function as the executive officer, and to remove the word chief to be consistent with the rest of this document and the intent of making it to be consistent with chapter 10.
Second.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Respectfully, no.
Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e,
No.
Chair Kahele. We have 5 yes, 3 no.
Page 39, I move to make an amendment of page 39 to also include the language, the last sentence of under the board secretary position, reading the board secretary is expected to synthesize and communicate ideas, memos, and official correspondence concisely, coherently, and comprehensively, to include that same wording minus the board secretary portion, but to synthesize and communicate ideas, memos, and official correspondence concisely, coherently, and comprehensively, to include that as well to the cooley under the chief of staff.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina, Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria,
No.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e,
Kanalua.
Chair Kahele, and Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 yes and 1 aole.
There's a motion.
Yeah, yeah.
Need a second?
It's a second.
No second. Discussion?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele. You have 8 yes votes. Motion passes.
Asia Society Islands. And so this action item is in addition to the most recent signed agreement that several trustees we were a part of at Kamehameha Schools. And this would allow and put behind the Board of Trustees' efforts into participating in the upcoming Raromatai Festival, which is scheduled to be held in late July and early August in Raʻiātea, specifically at Taputapuātea, which is a revered site through all of Polynesia, especially as it relates to voyaging and wayfinding. It's also the 50th anniversary of Hokulea, and it's our understanding that Hokulea and other va'a throughout Moananuiākea will be participating in this historic event. So this action item is purely to put the board's weight and effort behind the planning that will go into an OHA delegation that will join with the Kamehameha delegation to fly to Tahiti, eventually fly on to Raʻiātea, and to participate in a series of culture events, bilateral in some cases, trilateral discussions with not just Raʻiātea's communities and the 3 mayors, but also high-level delegations that are coming from Rapa Nui, as well as Aotearoa. And so that's what this action item is. And Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this item?
No one is signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, so the motion is purely that. It's to allow Hailama, who is our lead, to move forward with putting together what will be about a 15-member OHA delegation that will include trustees, it will include staff, it will include some of our most revered loya and cultural practitioners and artisans and experts from Hawaii to work together with and travel with the Kamehameha delegation to represent Hawaii at this festival. Is there a motion? It's on the board. No, but do we have a motion on the table? We do? Okay, so would someone like to read the motion, and then we'll need a second. Trustee Lindsay.
Mahalo. I move that we approve a 15-member delegation representing the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, inclusive of OHA trustees, administration, staff members, and recognized cultural lo'ea experts who will join contingent from the Kamehameha Schools, together establishing the Hawaii delegation to the Raromatai Festival 2025 in July 2025 at Taputapuātea, Raʻiātea, French Polynesia, and also approve of OHA representatives to engage with Moananuiākea delegations, Aotearoa, Rapa Nui, and Tahiti in conversations regarding culture, language, education, well-being, climate, and self-determination. Also authorize Chairperson Kaili'i Kahele to sign any formal agreements, memoranda of understanding, and other necessary documentation on behalf of OHA. BOT-related festival and Moananuiākea opportunities and OHA partnerships.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Lindsay. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee White.
how are we how are we gonna work the budget out for this endeavor?
It's a great question. So one of the reasons I wanted to agendize this item for the board in our preliminary planning is because it does come with substantial financial cost. Taking 15 individuals to Tahiti is not going to be cheap, and working together with Budget and Finance, Ramona, in addition to previously funded fiscal line items in the board's budget, I think will allow us to combine the resources we need to fund this trip.
And it's going to go through the BNF committee.
I mean, this is the next fiscal year's travel, right? This is July. So yes, it would be part of the FY26 budget. So great question. Hailama, can you come up just in case trustees have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I think, I just want to add that we do have surplus in this year's travel budget as well.
And Mr. Chair, I think, and Ramona and I've had conversations too, that it might be fortuitous to look at the 2025 budget because procuring the trip will have to happen in the 2025 section of our.
It's a great point.
So.
That travel
Yeah, with the
arrangements.
realignment, yeah.
So, you know, this allows like TRF to start putting, operations to start putting together the potential TRFs and really get a good idea of what, that's gonna cost. It's also our understanding, and we're still in preliminary conversations with the mayors, and Randy is really the point person, for our delegation, is if, you know, each three, communes plan to host and take in the three delegations. So Hawaii will be on one side of the island, Rapa Nui the other side, Aotearoa the other side. And so their intent is to do as much as they can to host us in a way that offsets some of the financial burdens that we might have. That's still undetermined, but we do know what fixed cost is, and that's getting there. Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo for sharing that. My first thought is when I hear of the welcome that they will provide to us and how generous that will be. My next thought is ho'okupu or makana, like
Right.
how do we in turn mahalo them for welcoming us? So I think some of what we had planned and put together for the Festival of the Pacific, with Kapa and Pa'akai and so forth, and the various islands, I think that would be a nice gesture.
Yes, Trustee Akaka and Chair, the beautiful thing about this and exciting thing about it is when the board does approve the AI, it allows us to move forward in all of those parts, of the important parts to represent Hawaii well. And that includes ho'okupu, it includes the planning and travel, as Chair said, as well as all of the incidentals, including training, because if you've ever worked with Dr. Randy Fong in Kamehameha, he's a great school of travel. And I mean that in an honorific way, meaning he prepares the delegation well. And it includes language prep, it includes protocol prep, it includes all of, even the concept of why we're there, what is, I mean, he gave some of it to us before, but approving this in concept will allow for the next steps to happen immediately.
Mahalo. So is it where Hailama is going to then take the lead in terms of a protocol organizing, and is it you alone? Are you getting a team, or is there an ad hoc? I know we used to have
Ilama
a
has
culture
actually
and
started
protocol.
about a 30-page draft document. He's well ahead of all of us, and you know, it will. I don't want to take away any thunder from Ilama, but you're welcome to describe some of the things you envision over the next few months that you would help us do to prepare for that trip.
And part of it is in conversation with Dr. Fong, and that is that there will be training sessions. It'll be required for the attendees, and that's so that we're cohesive. We're not there OHA Kamehameha. We're there Hawaii. But we were invited to collectively represent Hawaii. We, meaning the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and Kamehameha schools together, and hence the signing that happened in January. All of that.
So then it makes sense that we collaborate with them regarding
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, I also had a nice conversation with Trustee Galutaria, who I didn't realize was on Hokulea for about a month in 1992 and was at the arrival at Taputapuātea on the Wa'a when Hokulea arrived, and this reenactment of that in 2025 on the 50th anniversary of Hokulea is exactly what they envision. And so part of our potential loea will be those that were there. Trustee Galutaria?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, trustees, it was extraordinary in that it was a part of a greater voyage called Nona Mamo for the generations. And we actually put a GPS system under the hull of the canoe so that the students of Hawaii could follow her without compromising the wayfinding on deck. And so it started from Honolulu and went down to Tahiti, and I jumped on in Tahiti. We were doing daily radio reports on the KCCN 1420. No, I think it was FM 100 at the time, every day. And as we went down, pardon me? Yeah, KCCN. And then I jumped on in Tahiti, and we made our way through the societies and then to the cooks. And then we stopped but when we were in Tahiti, we stopped in Raʻiātea. And Taputapuātea had not been entered for centuries. And we got the clearance. And it was extraordinary in the sense that, and I'm recalling this as we're talking here, as we entered the pass, the Nai'a came and joined us. And they were like jumping up and down on every side. And then as we made to land, it was sunny, but there was a tahuna who was chanting, and it started to rain. And just it was spiritual. So I'm hoping whoever goes down there the next time gets to experience the same thing, because it really was something special. Thank you for letting me share.
Well, we're hoping maybe you can join us.
Oh, yeah,
If you're
I
feeling
hope.
up to the task
That'd be nice.
in a few months.
It can. Yeah, thank you.
Leanne, Mom, make that happen. Okay. Trustee Aquino?
Thank you, and congratulations to those of you who've been working on this. It's in the spirit of Festival of the Pacific and helps to position OHA as a true leader in bringing about the coming together of common peoples across the Pacific. So I'm very much excited about the prospect. But of course, as a trustee over our resources, I'm looking forward to the analysis of the return on investment. Festival of the Pacific was a wonderful event. I have to say, though, I haven't seen, or I'm not aware of the measurement of outcomes and the fulfillment of outcomes that resulted from that. And I want to make sure that we are not perceived by our beneficiaries or the public as just taking junkets, as many politicians do. And so we need to have a rigorous mapping out of the measurable outcomes that will be attained. And we need to be very accountable about that. So it's with that caution that I'm optimistic that we can do something good. But I think we need to see that.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I appreciate Trustee Aquino's fiscal, the opportunity to tie it back to dollars and cents. In this particular case, I will say that some things you just cannot equate to dollars and cents. This is history. And on top of that, I will tell you that as a Lahui, the people of Polynesia recognize OHA as almost the house of nobles. So we have to assume the position, if you will, until such time as we have a reorganized Native Hawaiian governance system. This is the only game in town. So I just wanted to put that on the table and ensure that, we are the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and it means a lot to the people of Polynesia. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo. I would be interested in knowing the continuance of our discussions with Talanoa and the Oceania group, if there would be opportunity for us to exercise that while we're there to maximize our time spent.
Chair, Trustee Akaka, because that would be a separate agendized item, I can update you about that. But the Talanoa would have happened today. But unfortunately, our host is unable to host us at this time. Perhaps we'll better be equipped to continue the work on the Oceania Traditional Leaders Forum after the 1 year time of mourning has passed for His Majesty.
That's right. Mahalo. Maybe let me rephrase that question. Then, could there be some form or version of the Talanoa, not exactly what we were doing during FestPac, as that might happen perhaps later this year in November, but would there be something that we could look at doing with the mayors of the various areas?
Yes, Trustee Akaka. So in the preliminary work that I've presented to Chair to look over, a lot of that has already been engaged, and that will actually help to answer, I hope, satisfy you, Trustee Kina, on your request. Because as a retired educator, I really believe on ROI, and I believe in understanding that if every dollar that's spent should be equated to some outcome. So I've started that already. And so I'm hoping, because I have to think that you folks all have the fiduciary responsibility to properly manage the resources. And I wouldn't want to ever set up something where you folks will look like you're wasting money or you're expending extravagantly when there was not importance. But I will, exactly what Trustee Galutaria is what I'm working on, the ROI and the mapping of outcomes, is to respect how culture can be equated and in the response and return on investment on how Moananuiākea, Trustee Akaka, is what I think you're getting to, that we are going to have conversations as a part of the Raromatai convening. It's not only a festival of performing arts and artisan of craft, but there are going to be conversations that are already set. Well, they'll parallel the event. And that's what's important for the trustees who are going, because chair can't be at every single one of the meetings. So those who will be going will have to have a functional kuleana, and that would include meeting with some of the dignitaries as well as the educators, as well as those respectful on housing of Native peoples. And the great idea of Tahiti and Aotearoa, the Tahiti Raʻiātea community doing this is that they are seeing that we're taking the three angles of the Pacific, convening us, and Raʻiātea being the Pico. And so I believe you will see satisfaction in what we'll bring out on what's going to happen with respect to programming there.
Well, knowing that you're working on this, I am quite confident that it will be done well.
Mahalo, I hope so.
Yeah.
I will try.
Trustee Lindsay?
Thank you. You know, for having represented the board in travels last year to Fiji, Taiwan, Aotearoa, I could see the big picture, how the Polynesian Islands and Hawaii can come together as a support group in all of the issues that we are experiencing throughout Polynesia, and more so in Hawaii. You folks know I don't want to mention the word, but the how much we're suffering to get what we need and to experience our rights. So having all these brothers and sisters from Polynesia sharing in our challenges, they have similar challenges and we can be of help back to them. So bringing us together as a Pacific family is so critical. And I think that would be the basis for us to make a decision and look at the big picture, that we gotta stick together. And, you know, I'm a conservative person, but I'm all for this relationship.
And Chair, I did want to confer, as Kapohana already shared or asked me, that in the MOU that was signed, it does call out that culture is an important part of it, but within it are all of the subject areas that we will be engaging while we're there. Like I said, including housing and climate crisis and education and so much geopolitical boundary and issues. And of course, you know, I'll say it because it's something that we all need to embrace, is that we don't see our oceans as barriers, but they are channels that connect us and avenues that connect us as a people, and they've always done that. So
Yeah, it's my understanding that there will be, and we're working on that agenda, right? Multiple plenary sessions that will allow, different trustees, and different leaders from the other, Pacific Island countries to come together and talk about many of these important issues. So maybe Halama, in the document you're producing, we can tie some of our Mana'i Mauliola, four, pillars around housing, stability, economic stability, educational pathways, and health outcomes to those objectives. And so, to Trustee Akina's point, we're making sure that there's measurable objectives that we're working on. And, I think that'll be really important. And just to echo what Trustee Lindsay said, I often say that indigenous knowledge can and will inspire contemporary solutions for some of the world's most challenging problems. I think that resides with us as a Pacific Ocean people. So this event, to Trustee Galatero's point, is sometimes can't be quantified by dollars and cents. But as fiduciary duties, it is also important for us to be able to justify that to our beneficiaries. And I think you're well on your way to doing that, Halama. So, Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. To blend together all that was said, and trying to find a balance in the purpose and the intention in us going. I think back to the discussions that we had regarding the Festival of Pacific and so forth. And in my experience sitting in the Talanoa, to me it exemplified this is having this avenue, these discussions amongst our Polynesian world leaders. This is the opportunity for us to that's part of the huge value. So we had the celebrations as in a public sense, but more privately, the discussions that were had amongst the leaders. I felt that value. I thought this is really what I'm seeing as for what we do, true value, where how I think of it as based on what Trustee Lindsay was saying, when it comes to our Native Hawaiian Crown and government lands, when it comes to EA, when it comes to challenges and celebrations, these are our sisters and brothers, our cousins that we lean to answer our kahea when we need them, as well as when they need us, we are in support of them, whether it's in any form that we can within our capacity. So I feel that this is a continuation of that, and I very much would like to see how we are maximizing these opportunities while we are there. And with that also, I see that there will be a 15 member delegation, and I was wondering who that would entail from the staffing side or administration side. Clearly, you would be going to help us with protocol and so forth, but who else would that?
Still working on it.
Okay.
Most importantly, obviously, Hailama would be part of the delegation. I also want to ensure that trustees are given the opportunity to attend, and so your staff has been, and most of you have already replied of who is available, who's interested in attending. And based on that number, we'll be able to fill the rest of the positions. I do feel it's very important to capture this information, both in photography, in video, in communication. And so it's no question in my mind that communications needs to be a part of this team as well, but more to come on that.
Mahalo.
Trustee Akina?
Just a question for Hailama. Do you have an estimated budget for the 15-person delegation and everything that would accompany that?
as I mentioned before, today's vote will allow us to immediately move forward, and I'll get that to Chair, and I know that Chair will get it to you folks as quickly as we can propose, because it also there's a lot of things to consider too. It's a program. We're still waiting for the mayors to respond on the exact calendar events of the week. We know that it'll be between Monday, the 28th to the Thursday, the 31st. We know that that is pa'a, but the actual events and conversations that will happen, we don't know yet. So, understanding this is just a few months away, I know you trustees will get this as soon as we can get it to you.
Good answer, Halama. Trustee Akina, but you'll also need to know that we are attempting to procure some key sponsorships that potentially will allow us to reduce the cost of the travel, specifically the airfare. So we have initiated those requests and we're waiting for the reply. And hopefully we will do everything we can to make sure that we are prudent with our beneficiary resources while also accomplishing the things that we also talked about on this table. So rest assured. Okay. All right, trustees. I think we have discussed this ad nauseum. We have a motion. Let's vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa?
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza? Trustee Waihe'e?
Yes.
Chair Kahele?
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, mahalo. All right, Halama, you got your marching orders. Okay. All right, let us move on to our next agenda item. Gonna be handing it over to our chairman of our Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment Committee, and so we're gonna move on to that agenda. Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to speak on Matrix 2?
There is no one signed up for Matrix 2.
Okay, so I'm going to recognize Chair Galutaria to initiate the motions to approve the already approved matrices in the BA committee.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're gonna do this all in one, or we're gonna go one by one?
I think we gotta do them
Gotta
separately.
do one by one. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to adopt the approval of staff's recommendations for positions on bills affecting the bills naming OHA as reflected in Matrix 2.
Do we have a second? Trustee Akaka, any discussion? Hear none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa? Trustee Galutaria?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza? Trustee Waihe'e?
Yes.
Chair Kahele?
All right,
You have 8 yes votes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to adopt the approval of staff's recommendations for positions on bills affecting the public land trust as reflected in Matrix 3.
second. Trustee Wahey, you have a second? Okay, members discussion, not roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa? Trustee Galutaria?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza? Trustee Waihe'e? Chair Kahele?
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
And just for the record, no testifiers on Matrix 3?
Correct, no testifiers.
Okay. Do you have anyone sign up for Matrix 4?
No one is signed up for Matrix 4.
Trustee Galutaire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to adopt the approval of staff's recommendations for position on bills affecting natural resources and Native Hawaiian traditional and customary practices as reflected in Matrix 4.
Second. Trustee Akaka, discussion, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa?
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza? Trustee Waihe'e?
Yes.
And Chair Kahele?
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Anyone signed up to speak on Matrix 5?
No one is signed up for Matrix 5.
Okay, Trustee Galutaire.
Mahalo, Chair. I'd like to move to approve the approvals of staff's recommendations for position on bills affecting Native Hawaiian housing as reflected in Matrix 5.
Second. Trustee Akaka seconds, discussion, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina? Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Anyone sign up to speak on matrix 6?
No one is signed up for matrix 6.
Okay, Chair Galtier.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the approval of staff's recommendations for position on bills affecting Native Hawaiian health as reflected in matrix 6.
Second. Wait, second, roll call vote. Discussion, none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Anyone signed up for matrix 7?
No one is signed up for matrix 7.
Okay, Chair Galtier.
Thank you, Chair. I move to adopt the approval of staff's recommendations for position on bills affecting Native Hawaiian education as reflected in matrix 7.
Second.
Trustee Akaka seconds, discussion, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Anyone signed up to speak on matrix 8?
No one is signed up for matrix 8.
Okay, Chair Galtier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve of staff's recommendations for position on bills affecting Native Hawaiian economic development as reflected in matrix 8.
Second.
Second by Trustee Akaka, discussion, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. And Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, Leho, do we have anyone signed up to speak on matrix 9? Sure. Okay, we have one person signed up to speak. Okay. Aloha na pua. We'll get you set up. Yeah, mahalo for joining us.
Oh, mahalo. Mahalo, trustees. I wasn't thinking about all of this until I heard you folks speaking of this. I have no understanding or knowledge as to what are these, but I would like to just say that I would like to reserve my rights as a beneficiary. I'd like to reserve my rights, and I don't waiver any of my rights regarding all of this matter.
Okay,
That's it.
mahalo. Thank
Thank
you so much. Anyone else to speak on matrix 9?
No one else is signed up to speak on matrix 9.
Okay. Chair Galtier.
Thank you, Chair. I move to adopt the approval of staff's recommendations for position on bills affecting HRS Chapter 6E, Iwi Kupuna, as reflected in matrix 9.
Do you have a second? Discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, mahalo, and mahalo to the advocacy team, Elena Ala and her team for working very hard on our behalf at the state legislature during the upcoming legislative session. Okay, the next item listed on the agenda is deferred as the Committee on Budget and Finance was canceled at its March 19th meeting. So these items will be on our next board agenda set for next week. That would be on Thursday, March 27th at 11 a.m. I think for the members as well, one of the items on this is the approval of, Ramona's not here, but the financial audit that needs to be submitted before the end of the month. So, Kapuana, wasn't it distributed? for
I'm sorry,
review?
I was talking with the beneficiary, I didn't hear the.
The audit that we're gonna discuss at next week's BNF meeting was distributed.
It was distributed in the packet, and then I also redistributed it so that trustees, just to remind them to take a look at the materials, and if they had any questions, Ramona would be happy to meet with them to answer any questions.
Yeah, that would be great. Because of the condensed timeline, we'll need to review or have it presented to us as a board action, on Tuesday, and then due to the holiday, come back in on Thursday for adoption prior to the March 31st deadline, so it can be filed. So if you can, please, take the time to review that. If you have any questions, you can take it up with Ramona beforehand, because we have a quick turnaround time. Everett?
Thank you, Chair. I know you had discussed deferring action on the other Committee on Budget and Finance items. Is that my understanding? Is my understanding correct?
Correct.
If I could maybe suggest that this board do take action on the sponsorship action items listed. Those were initially recommended for approval at the March 5th Budget and Finance Committee. And a number of those events fall within the next week or so, and therefore the board approval would be necessary to fund the sponsorships for those events. So this is not dependent on the cancellation of yesterday's meeting.
Yeah, so these are items, they are on our
Steve.
agenda, page 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 through 4 in the Committee on Budget and Finance. These are already previously approved.
Those were recommended by
Right.
the Budget and
BNF
Finance
Committee,
Committee for approval at the March 5th meeting. But they are coming up, I think, within the next week or so
We would
with
take
actual
each
events.
item as an agenda item. I have no problem with that. Does someone want to read, or actually I'll hand it to Chair Alapa to read each action item, starting with number 2515. When she puts it, then I can. Well, I guess, yep. But before we do that, is there anyone here to testify on action item number BF 2515? Lehua?
No one is signed up for 2515.
Okay.
action item.
So I'll recognize Chair Alapa to read the action item.
Mahalo, Chair. Is it come out? Okay, hold on. All right, your Committee on Budget and Finance for action item number BF 25-15, approval of OHA funding for the Ho'akoakoa Lahui event, sponsorship to Maui Economic Development Board for the 2025 16th Annual Hawaii STEM Conference for March 24, 2025 in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina. Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Anyone signed up to speak on action item 2516?
No one is signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, Chair Lapa.
Mahalo. Your Committee on Budget and Finance, having met on March 5th, 2025, after full and free discussion, recommends the following action item BF 25-16. Approval of OHA funding for Ho'akoakoa Lahui event, sponsorship to Hawaii Friends of Restorative Justice for the 2025 16th Annual Parole Completion Celebration event on March 27, 2025, in the amount of $3,700.
Second.
Discussion? Vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Anyone signed up to speak on action item 2517?
No one is signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, Chair Lapa.
Mahalo. Your Committee on Budget and Finance, having met on March 5th, after full and free discussion, recommends the following. Action item BF 25-17, approval of OHA funding for the Ho'akoakoa Lahui event, sponsorship to Hana Laulima Lahui o Ka'u, Inc., for the 2025 annual Prince Kuhio Day Ho'olaulea event on March 29, 2025, in the amount of $3,000.
Second.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Anyone signed up to speak on 2518?
No one is signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, Chair Lapa.
Yep. Mahalo. Your Committee on Budget and Finance, having met on March 5th, after full and free discussion, recommends the following. Action item BF 25-18. Did I just say that? No. 25-18, approval of OHA funding for Ho'akoakoa Lahu event sponsorship to O Maku'uke Kahua for the 2025 Maku'uku'i festival event on March 29, 2025, in the amount of $3,500.
Second, Trustee Wahe. Discussion, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, great. Mahalo, Chair Lapa. And trustees, we are and will be doing, I think it's at our next admin update, a full briefing again and presentation from Kehao on our
Kehao, yes.
Ho'akoakoa sponsorship program.
Correct.
Okay, our next agenda item is the status of OHA activities. Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this item?
Yes, we have one person. We have Jermaine Myers.
Okay, can we welcome Jermaine?
Aloha Chair,
Hello,
Aloha Chair,
Jermaine.
Vice Chair, and Aloha. Aloha Chair, Vice Chairs, and Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. Update on OHA's Hawaiian Registry Program. When I saw this on today's agenda, I don't believe I ever registered for OHA's Hawaiian Registration Program. I also didn't know that there are benefits I could access by registering. I reviewed the online registration form and process, and I noted that we have to renew every 5 years. Based on the renewal factor, I hope OHA will consider updating its somewhat archaic registration paper process. I hope OHA will consider using a membership app platform that allows online and mobile registration. Eventbrite offers membership management services, not just event registration, but there's also various other membership app platforms that have different features to consider, including migration of the old system, in addition to integration with OHA's other app platforms. This would be a great opportunity since I saw that there's over 40,000 registered members registered for the Hawaiian Registration Program. So to be able to communicate with them using a membership management service would be an amazing opportunity for community engagement. I hope administration will also consider including OHA Hawaiian registration signups as part of OHA's booth at our Prince Kuhio Festival in Nanakuli this Saturday. Ke Akuapu, God bless all of you.
Mahalo, Jermaine. Anyone else?
There is no one else signed up for this item.
Okay, so at this time, we're gonna hand it over to our CEO, our Kapuana, to discuss
Yeah.
her OHA activities and administration's update. The agendized item was to provide an update in addition to whatever the Kapuana has to update, including any pending upcoming travel, as well as our OHA's Hawaiian Registry Program. So Kapuana, aloha.
Mahalo. I'll ask to have Ilima Kela, our Beneficiary Services Manager, come up to provide her report on the Hawaiian Registry Program.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, Trustees this afternoon. Mahalo for this time for the inquiry regarding our what we call the HRP, the Hawaii Registry Program. According to the HRS, OHA is to keep a registry of all Native Hawaiians that has genealogical ties to the Aboriginal people from as far back as 1778. So with this program, which I believe they started this actual program in 2002. So there's the enrollment process where there's an application, paper application. They can either do it email. We do not have a system for them to be able to do everything and submit everything. It's through email. They cannot do it where they drop their documents and it comes directly to us. It has to be through the email process, which is one of the things we might want to consider. Mahalo to the beneficiary that brought that up, because we have been talking about making the program more efficient. So they have to provide a couple of documents, which is a birth certificate and an ID along with the application. The birth certificate needs to show ancestry. And if it doesn't have ancestry, then they need to go back until they can find the record of their line that shows Native Hawaiian ancestry. We have BSAs across the state that have been processing. Beneficiary service agents. At one point, we had a machine in every office. So every office on the island throughout the Paina could service their own community. There was a dedicated HRP staff that took care of that. And when he was here, he decided to centralize it on Oahu. I believe that was back in 2017. Took away all the machines and centralized it here in Oahu, which put that on one person here. And then eventually in 2021, the CEO at the time completely did away with that position. So we do not have a dedicated position for this program, which is something that's mandated in the HRS. So what we do is we've had one person, one beneficiary service agent that took care of it. And I want you guys to understand that it's worldwide. Wherever we have Native Hawaiians, they can submit an application and be registered. So we are servicing Native Hawaiians worldwide. It used to be where we did community engagement and went out to events, but we don't have that anymore because of how it was switched up as far as taking away and centralizing one machine. We currently have another machine, which has been recent since Kana'aho onto Maui. Trustee Lindsay worked diligently with the director at the time to make sure Maui had a machine. So we do have a couple machines in storage that we are looking into. I reached out to IT to see how we can get that up and going. We do need to update the program. It is very outdated. So we're working with JEBCO, which is the company that we work with for this program, and seeing how we can upgrade it. We're adding it to our budget because that's another thing that is was shocking to both Lisa and I, that there is no budget for HRP. So we've been operating that way. So that's being added on. And with new administration, we have new things and then new mana'o that comes in that we can fix these things to make things more efficient for our people that they have been waiting. So that's been some common feedback from our community, is that, you know, we put it in, it's been a month or two that they've been waiting. We try to fast track those. If they let us know that it's for a program for loans, to participate in the NARF, the Native Hawaiian Revolving Loan Fund, they need to have an existing card. So they will call us and let us know this beneficiary is applying, so we can fast track that. We have different programs throughout OHA. Like right now is AHO. So for them to qualify for AHO, they need to be registered. And then one thing that we did discuss was the whole renewal process. We don't change. Once we're registered, we're Native, we're Kanaka. That doesn't change in 5 years. So that's something that Kapohana and our Director of Community Engagement has brought up, that we want to try and switch up as well and try a new process with that, because the renewal process is almost identical to a new registration, and it's time consuming. With that one person, we ended up having all of the BSCs a part of that. And so, yeah, we would like to fast track things a little bit better. So Kapohana has some suggestions that we want to bring up. We do the perks of the HRP besides just, I know a lot of people on the continent wanted just to say that they are Kanaka, they are Native Hawaiian. They can qualify for programs that require Native Hawaiian ancestry. So that's the collaboration we have with different agencies like Alulike. So they have their trades program that require Native Hawaiian ancestry. The card is easier to produce because you can carry it in your wallet than having to, you know, break out your birth certificate, and they accept that. OHA we don't have like OHA sponsored scholarships, but those scholarships that require this is what they can use. And then our people on the continent can use this to get Native American funding. If they go to school on the continent, so they can get help with school, housing, medical. And then if you have the card, you can go to any national park for free. You don't have to pay. So yeah, everybody should get a card. So yeah, that's you know, again, our future plans, yeah, the expansion of this. We want to get dedicated staff for this, for HRP. It is very important. I know Trustee Galatera has big plans that we want to use these numbers, the 41,000, and I can't say how much of them are in the state of Hawaii. That's something that we have to go and backtrack, but we do need to expand as far as updating program, getting more machines into our offices, and other programs to keep the data more accurately. The printing machines.
Printing, oh, I see. So printing like,
the card.
got you.
Ilima, I think it would be great for trustees. So on page 4, we have solutions to some of the issues that Ilima has brought forward. One, obviously, is we're going to be we're putting into the budget, so hopefully we'll get approval from trustees for the budget request, and it'll be 2 machines at 6,000 each. And then so that would be for which offices specifically? So Maui has one, Oahu has one.
I would like to have one on Hawaii Island. We do serve a big community there, and possibly Kauai.
And then when we have events on Molokai, like Mea'ai, Mana'o, the BOT, we would bring the machine.
Yeah, I would, because we found out it is mobile, and we can make it mobile and have it there.
And Lanai,
yes.
Kalamai. And
So once upon a time, they used to do that. They used to go to civic conventions on the continent, and they would take the machine. So there was a lot of community engagement on the continent for the people there. That has all stopped. So we need to figure out how can we engage with our community, and especially even our people here, to understand this program that they can register with.
Will we be sending out, sorry. Oh, okay. Mahalo.
Okay.
Mahalo. And then lastly, we are going to do away with the renewal requirement. We'll be sending an email to all registrants in our system. And basically, if you have an update to provide, like an email or a home address that needs to be updated, then they can send in that information, but we're not going to put an expiration date. That will cut down significantly on the resources required for these cards.
But yeah, that's, if you guys have any questions, I'm Paul. Sure.
My first question being, what does it look like? Has it looked the same from the beginning? It's when it was first created?
Yes.
It's the same look?
Yes, that red with the lehua.
Okay. And I love the idea of the opportunity to continue doing what we had done in previous times where it was at the Civic Club Convention, and I could see that as an opportunity at other Native Hawaiian convenings, whether it's the CNHA convention, we can
Yes.
collaborate to make that an opportunity for people. Is it where it's required to have the application come in a certain period of time before the what would be the convention, and then
No,
or you
it's
can do it right
something
then and
we
there?
can do right then and there.
They just
If
have
they
to
have
the
their
pala.
documents,
Mhm.
yes. It does get a little complex sometimes when there's adoption involved, when there's donors involved. So it gets a little more complex. But if you come in, your birth certificate has Hawaiian, you have your license, we can do your card right then and there.
Wow.
It's a pretty quick
Okay.
process.
So I would imagine then if we are gonna offer this opportunity that we have a plan in place with our communications team so that we can
Yes.
we can promote this, advertise it, and so that people know to bring their pala
Yes.
to
What
the
to bring.
various events and what to bring and how simple or complex it can be.
Yes.
Thank you.
First of all, mahalo. Appreciate knowing that we're moving forward on this. Obviously, we are going through a growth process again, almost starting from scratch. As we get more robust in our execution of a list of whatever it is that we're going to come up with, value proposition of why you even want to be a part of this is really important.
Yes.
Obviously, home ownership is big. We shouldn't even sneeze at 10% off Domino's Pizza either. You know what I mean? Anything that will entice people to come and be a part of this registry. Now, what is the entry-level age?
Birth.
Birth.
Mhm.
Okay. That exponentially kind of, if we had something at the Department of Health that gave us information about what Hawaiians have just been born, that would be very helpful, wouldn't it? Is that possible to do? You don't know.
I don't think so.
That's
There's
proprietary information.
Yes. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so once you do enter the registry, may I ask that we're going to get sophisticated in this exercise, obviously. You know, you're on a good track. What I would hope is that we could identify where everybody lives, what districts they live in, both senatorial and representative, so we can identify and even let those representatives know that we have a little bit of voting heft in their district. How they want to play it, it's totally up to them. But it's informational for them as well. Would that be possible?
Yes.
To break it down into districts?
Yeah. Well, we don't have their voters, but we can get districts.
Pardon me?
We don't know if they're voters, but we definitely can break it down to their districts.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
There is ways to access lists through the Office of Elections too. Some of it you got to purchase,
Mhm.
but there are ways to match it up. I'm just trying to ensure that we know where our Hawaiians are politically.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay, mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo. Sounds like we're looking at data collection here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is it where there's a disclaimer in there for us to be able to, in the future, reach out for inquiries or anything of that sort?
No, but that can be put in because we do need to redo the application because there's a disclaimer in there that we could use them for I believe it was Kauinoa. So that, yes. So we can put in a disclaimer.
So for instance, if somebody is the age of 1 at the time,
Mhm.
or a infant age, and they have their photo taken and it's put on the registry card, so they could be 35 and then have that same photo and Aʻole Pilikia, just keep using
They
them.
can change it, and people actually they do. The kids will call. They say my mom registered me when I was young, because they want to redo it. And then there's even adults that want to redo their pictures. So for those reasons, they can totally do it. It's not a problem to do that. It's the whole process that we're gonna change. Yeah, because babies, yeah, and then
So how do you folks have an idea of how many people have come back to re-up or retake their photo or say they've misplaced their card? There've been a lot of
a lot.
there've been a lot.
A lot of renewals.
I have a question.
Sure.
You done? Good. Any collaboration, working together with commitment schools and their Ho'olu verification?
That was
registry
in
system?
discussion a while back. I believe the HRP specialist at the time was trying to adopt their process and was working with them. There was a kickback by our genealogy specialist about that. We do want to reach out more because they require 3 generations to, if I'm not mistaken. We don't.
We don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Might be worth re-exploring that conversation only because they, you know, as many of you have gone to Kamehameha, it's required, right?
Right.
From preschool, you have to be part of the registry to apply for scholarships, to do anything at Kamehameha.
Right.
So, I think to like Trustee Galatera's point, you know, the list that we have and expanding that list is really important, but you have to give people a reason why they want to and should sign up for it, right?
Yeah.
And, all of these different events that we have, whether it's different conventions, obviously the CNHA convention is a big convention we participate in, are all areas and times where we should have a presence to capture that information, of course, making it easier as we update our OHA website, maybe evolve to having an OHA app one day that also includes the ability to register or upload documents to make it as easy as it possible for someone to
We
do
would
that.
like to do that. We have a lot of people that still that don't have access to printing the application. Because you go online, you have to print the application. There's no fillable thing. You go online and do it. So that would be a good thing that we could add to our website and able to upload documents.
Yeah.
And that would be it will get to us.
Could we partner with local native Hawaiian businesses and vendors where having a registry card entitles you to a certain discount, right? You have to add a value to the card for someone to want the card.
Right. And I think that's
You know,
something we
and-
can
and
do
it just,
at
you know,
the, yeah, at the
idea.
community engagement level.
Innovative ideas.
Yes, and then, you know, especially with our Kanaka-owned businesses, if we can do something like that,
Yeah.
and, you know.
Going back to my question regarding the disclaimer, and what Trustee Galatario was talking about with data collection and so forth, and I try to look at different opportunities for us to mindfully reach out to our beneficiaries when it comes to a kahea that we might want to put out when it comes to our legislative efforts and so forth. But also keeping in mind that a lot of people don't want to be inundated with their personal email addresses on certain things that might be overwhelming for them. So maybe I would be interested in the exploration of language where people are open for us to be in communication with them on various matters if there's a different set of boxes that they would be interested in checking off so that we can continue to be in whatever form of communication they're open to.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Trustee Galatera, I've often heard him, different hats he's worn, talk about political muscularity. This is an opportunity to build that, right?
Yes.
When we put out the kahea, that it should be 100,000 strong, right? We have 45,000 on this list. Who knows if we had to scrub it, how current and accurate it is. And so building that list is, I think, critical and really important to do. You know, one idea, my daughter attends college on the mainland and she's part of a Hawaiian club. And there's about 60 students in her Hawaiian club. And I package up the Kawaiʻola every time it's published and mail like 60 copies and tell her to distribute it to the other students in her university Hawaiian club. And I'd love to get a chance for them to register
with OHA, because at some point they're gonna come back home, right? And I'm
Right.
trying to figure out ways to connect not just Hawaiians here, but Hawaiians abroad, the next generation of Hawaiians. This younger generation of Hawaiians at like 18 to 34-year-old generation to OHA, because they are our political power in Hawaii, and we need to
Yes.
connect with them. So
I think that this also gives opportunity based on what you're saying for us to have a card campaign of some sort, PSAs, something, even if it's just on our social media. I saw that we have a new OHA commercial out on TV as well.
Yep.
But I think this is something that we can build on and that we be able to exercise in terms of not just a requirement, but something that we celebrate. And we want to give this equal opportunity for Hawaiian people to have easy access.
Yeah.
it seems to me, and according to our Chair Emerita and meeting with her earlier, that the volume of sponsorships that this board has undertaken has been dramatically different than the past. Every board meeting, we're approving at least 5 or 6 different sponsorships. And we've talked about ensuring that with these sponsorships comes the commitment to have the opportunity to gather data at these events, whether it's through working together with the sponsor or having a physical presence there at these events, which obviously requires manpower. Oftentimes it's on the weekends outside of our staff's normal, work schedule. So, but these are all events that we should be able to capture additional, people onto our rolls, into our Native Hawaiian registry. So we're open to innovative ideas that your BSA team has. I noticed your budget request is $6,000 and 2 machines. I think we can
That's
probably
just for one
do better
machine,
than
yeah,
that.
Chair.
For one machine?
That's for one machine.
Okay, one machine. But let us know what resources that you need.
Definitely, we're gonna compile, because there's some other, there's this program that we want to get it so that can collect the data. We would like to be able to print up data every year. This is how much people apply, this is how much is incomplete, this is where they live. So there's programs for that. So we will compile something and something more detailed once I get online with JEPCO as far as upgrading the system. Because when there is issues, IT can't help us because it's not an IT thing, it's a program that needs to be upgraded. So we will put something together for approval.
I've noticed in commercials where they have a QR code on the TV, I think that would be an excellent idea for our OHA commercials to have a QR code. Part of it in promoting the importance of registry for us and what we're trying to do. Again, technology-wise, these are all really good ideas in which we can emphasize or expedite people able to sign up. So is that something you guys are looking at?
Definitely. Well, we can. That's something we would ask comms to take care of for us.
Again, I think it needs all great ideas. I think you have to have that incentive piece, right? Like we've all seen
Definitely.
commercials, we've all seen things that for whatever reason triggers something, pulls at something, moves us to do something, an action. That doesn't exist right now.
Right.
With this. And we need that to be able to build that,
Right.
that
Like
list.
with AHO, we have a lot of new applicants because the incentive is OHA's going to help us
Sure.
with our down payment. So that's significant. But if we can do something on a daily, definitely is something I think we should do with the different businesses. At least we can start with our locally owned businesses and see how we can go from there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of collaborative ways we can work with businesses. We can work with our sponsors that are doing these events that have a captive audience with a lot of different people. That should be a condition of our sponsorship, right? Like every opportunity we get to data gather and add people to this registry should be a goal. And, providing, I don't know, however, weekly or monthly updates, Kapuana, from the BSA team on how many people we've registered, right? According to this list, up to now, so in the last, less than 90 days, 191 people have registered.
Since January, yes.
That's great, but we probably can do
And to your point, the reason you're seeing a spike is because of the AHO program. And so again, it's the incentive to be able to, pursue a particular program or service, then you need the card. So.
we all have wallets, right? You only have certain space in your wallet. We want people to feel like, yeah, I gotta have this card in my wallet for whatever
Yes.
reason, right?
I'll be able to put it in your digital wallet, I mean.
Or digital wallet, yeah. Or
Yeah.
still carry wallets, but. Chair
Yeah.
Galataire?
Yeah,
What's in your wallet?
That's a
Like
good
that.
one. What's
Maybe
in your wallet?
Communications can make a commercial about that.
You know, in helping, you know, in the, I guess it's the intra-Lahui community, I would hope that we're gonna be making contact with the Native Hawaiian Chambers,
Yes.
and they can be a part of pushing it out to their networks too, and also having their members be a part of our value
Yeah,
proposition.
definitely.
Just tossing that out
Thank you.
for consideration.
Civic
Yes.
clubs? Homestead waitlist?
Societies,
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank
that presentation and Kapohana. Really appreciate it.
I wanted to provide trustees just with a few updates. So I'll be traveling tomorrow to Kauai to PMRF with Kamakana Ferreira and Kuike Kamakea Ohelo. We're going to be meeting with Kaulana Mossman, Community Planning Liaison, and Tara Del Fierro, Cultural Resources Manager, an archaeologist, as well as Punani Aipualani. He's the cultural practitioner there who helps to curate and caretake the Lua Upa Pa'u o Nahili Crip area. And so the three of us are going to be going there. We were invited by PMRF to basically learn about the historical and Native Hawaiian preservation sites and practices that they have there. And it was actually brought to as an opportunity for us as we are exploring a current partnership with SHPT and the County of Kauai to look at potential interment sites for iwi kupuna that have been exposed or washed up on the coastlines on Kauai. And so we are looking to see how we can figure out where on Kauai, utilizing county lands, how we can partner on reinterring these iwi. You know, it's quite tragic because of sea level rise. So much of the iwi is now being exposed. But in addition to that, there are boxes and storage of iwi that were unearthed during construction and development projects, and our kupuna need to be reinterred. And so it's an urgent matter that we collaborate and look for opportunities to inter them sooner than later. And by going to PMRF, because they've done an amazing job, and I think Chair can even speak to a lot of the work that they've done there in creating a crypt there to inter iwi that have been found on the property at PMRF. Down at the Nohili sand dunes. So we're going to go there. We're going to learn. We're going to get their documentation on their design of the crypt as well as the budget, and start figuring out how we can best approach this this iwi kupuna issue that is just going to continue to be exacerbated as sea level rise occurs, not just on Kauai but across the Pai'aina. So that's tomorrow. And then I also wanted to share, it's going to be a busy week for our trustees. Lots of events coming up. So on Saturday, March 22nd, Trustee Alapa will be attending 2 events on the same day. She'll be at the Prince Kuhio Ho'olaulea on Moloka'i from 9 to 3. And then she's going to fly to Oahu and she's going to attend the 6th annual Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalanianaole Festival at Kalanianaole Beach Park, formerly Nanakuli Beach Park. So mahalo for that. It's going to be a marathon day for you. And then on Tuesday, March 25th, there's going to be a DHHL rally at the State Capitol Rotunda. They're asking for support. DHHL is asking for support on House Bill 606. They originally asked for $600 million for new construction to fulfill Act 279, Phase 2 projects. However, it's been reduced to $50 million in the appropriation. At 11 a.m., Trustee Galutaria has been invited to speak at the press conference, so he'll be representing OHA. And then we are also going to encourage our staff, if their schedules allow, for them to come down to the Capitol and support for an hour or two to sign waive. And then on Wednesday, March 26th, there's the annual memorial celebration for Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalanianaole. Trustee Lindsay Akina and Trustees Lindsay and Akina will be there along with myself and Maki'ile Ishihara. Maki'ile is going to be doing the opening pule on behalf of OHA at Mauna'ala. And then on Friday, March 28th, there's going to be a lei draping ceremony honoring King Kamehameha III at Thomas Square Park. And Vice Chair Souza will be providing the keynote speech. Trustee Akina and I will also be attending that event as well. So mahalo for everybody going out to community and representing the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Trustee Lindsay?
I just want to say that I'm speaking at the Maui Prince Kuhio on Saturday.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent. Anything else, Kapuana? Okay. Thank you so much for that update. Trustees, we're gonna jump out of order now because we do have executive session agenda, but I know we have members of our community that have been here. So we're gonna jump to the approval of minutes, which is the September 12th, 2024 minutes as an agenda item that we need to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Trustee Wahe, seconded. Discussion. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka. Aye. Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, now let's go to item number 5, since I know we have members of our community waiting. Thank you so much for being patient. So we're gonna jump to community concerns and celebrations. And Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to speak under community concerns or celebrations?
Yes, we do have one person. We have Napua.
Hi, Napua. And Napua, when you introduce yourself, please state your last name as well.
Aloha, mahalo for having me here, giving me the opportunity. My name is Napua Kahunahana, and I'm a senior kahu for the Spirit of Aloha Ministries, often for the Hawaiian Kingdom Society. I have Lehua. Lehua, could you give them? I have a copy of a petition that we're petitioning OHA, trustees and administration, for redress of grievances in accordance with the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. You know, we have been deprived, suppressed, oppressed, and deprived from ongoing criminal activities that against us. That if you would read that, and what we're looking at is, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my paper. Do you want to read that? Take a moment for you to read.
No, you go ahead, because
Okay.
you're limited to 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Basically, I've been pushing for our identity. Being involved with advocating our rights for 35 years, that's half of my life. I've been advocating on our rights. And I came to the conclusion that first and foremost is our identity. Because we can fight in all of these things as to who we are and our rights, but it boils down to our identity. Who are we? And, you know, we've been forced to be United States citizens. In here, in this petition, I have cited some laws that will show you and help guide so we can have, I thank Trustee Hulu Lindsay to introduce me to Stacy so that we can collaborate and discuss this matter of our identity as to being a Kanaka as our race, as a Hawaiian national, Hawaiian subject, and as our country as the Kingdom of Hawaii. You know, we are under occupation, and you all know that. And there are certain laws that must be complied to, especially when officials of the state of Hawaii takes an oath to the United States Constitution. And the Article 6, the Supremacy Clause, we have treaties. The Kingdom of Hawaii has treaties with the United States. The United States has treaties with the United Nations, which binds the law of nations, law of war, international law of war. So this is to show what infractions there were of the laws that puts us in a position that we have been suppressed and oppressed and deprived of our identity, our rights, and to to implement and enforce our rights. So I'd like to, we petition trustees here of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to help rectify and produce the reparations for our injustices. This body was created because of the historical injustices and to protect our rights and to support self-determination. So this is an effort of supporting our self-determination and our rights to our identity as to who we are. When it says occupation, if you notice in here, it says occupation does not transfer sovereignty. And that's what keeps us in continuity. Relating to Queen Liliuokalani's letter on January 17, 1893, that served as an armistice. She then keeps us in continuity. We have that right. And it also says in here that the occupying power cannot force us to take allegiance to their country, in which what they did is make us be U.S. citizens in accordance to or pursuant to the Organic Act of the Territory to provide a government for the territory of Hawaii. In Section 4, it says we all must become U.S. citizens. That's a war crime. So to be pono and to make pono amongst each other for ourselves and to make right, this is where the petition comes in. Not to fight, but to come together as one mind, one accord, and to do what is pono. The life of the sovereignty, not the life, because ola is a life. The air, the sovereignty of the land is perpetuated in God's righteousness.
Mahalo,
Ike pono.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. I look forward to our meeting. Mahalo. Trustee Lindsay for introducing me. And I really look forward to sitting down at the table and going over this.
Mahalo.
We have one more speaker. We have Jermaine Myers.
Okay. And you can admit Jermaine. Hi, Jermaine.
Aloha, Chair.
Hi,
Aloha,
you're
Chair, Vice Chair. Oh, thank you. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. Mahalo kapohana for confirming that OHA will begin to attend our Nanakuli Maili Neighborhood Board monthly meetings on the third Tuesday of each month, starting in April. I'd like to share a little bit about our board composition at this time. In the last 4 months, 3 members vacated and we've had to replace them. One of them was our previous board chair, Samantha DeCourt. She became our senator for our District 22. Another had a promotion in her job that took time away, so she had to vacate. And then another member had to leave the islands to move to the mainland. Our 9-member board currently consists of 8 Native Hawaiian board members that live on Hawaiian homestead lands in Nanakuli. And 1 board member is a non-Hawaiian who resides in Maili. Our board chair, Malia Augustin, is the current chief of staff to Senator Samantha DeCourt, our senator for District 22. And in our board, we also have a Nanakuli High School teacher, an in-peace outreach coordinator, an engineer, a retired police officer, retired city worker, and a co-owner of a for-profit handicapped transporter service provider. And of course, we have me. We look forward to OHA learning more about the day-to-day concerns of our community members. Also to assist us with our community goals and resolving some of the hard issues we face in housing, education, economic opportunities, transportation, and INA stewardship, but also assisting us in sustaining our cultural values and Olelo Hawaii. This Saturday is our Prince Kuhio Festival from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Kalani Anaole Beach Park in Nanakuli. Mahalo nui to OHA for the financial sponsorship of this important community event on homestead lands. I hope you'll be able to join us. I also hope OHA's community engagement staff will be there to promote OHA's services at OHA's booth during the festival. Ke akua pu, God bless all of you.
Mahalo, Jermaine. Anyone else signed up to speak on community concerns and celebrations?
There is no one else signed up to speak on this agenda item.
Okay, all right. So trustees, we are going to adjourn and take a break. The two remaining items on our agenda is our executive session, recess, executive session, as well as our announcements. And so let's take a recess and reconvene at about 1:45. Gives us enough time for lunch. Our scheduled executive session with outside legal counsel is arriving at 2. So 1:45 is it, and enjoy your lunch, and we will convene.